Hi, and welcome back to my little knitting corner. Hi, my name is Edita, and today I want to do a little bit of a different knitting podcast. Today I want to share 10 reasons why I love knitting and what I've learned from it so far. So, with holidays and New Year's approaching, I wanted to make a little bit of a different knitting podcast video and express my gratitude and share what the knitting has brought to my life. So please sit back and relax, take your lovely cup of drink, maybe you're knitting as well, and enjoy this video. I want to start by saying that I'm not an expert knitter by any means. I don't write patterns, I don't make yarn, I can't even knit while not looking at my needles. I just want to share this from my point of view, from my experience and how I see knitting as my hobby. When this idea came to my mind, I've been trying to collect my thoughts about it for a little while because I'm pretty sure knitting as a process is not only whips and finished objects, acquisitions, future plans. Well, at least not for me. It is my hobby, and I've heard somewhere a quote that made that perfect sense to me and gave me a little bit more confidence about my knitting journey and enjoying knitting as my hobby. And it goes like this. You don't have to be good at something for it to be worth doing. And I really love this quote. And it gave me so much freedom in my head because for a long time while I was searching what is my hobby, I think I was too perfectionist. I felt that a hobby has to be something that you're good at. So I always stopped doing things I once enjoyed because I wouldn't lie how it turned out until I found knitting is my perfect little hobby. So what is a knitting for me and why do I love it so much? First of all, the reason one, it doesn't save money, but it's worth it. I'm gonna start with that. Maybe it is an unpopular opinion because it feels like if you have a yarn in your stash, in your home, it doesn't cost money. But it actually does cost a lot. My first sweater I made, even though it was super fast to knit, it cost me around 70 or 80 euros. I would never buy a sweater for this price. But then I realized it's 100% natural materials. I made it. It has a lot of love and time put into it, and it's absolutely worth it in the end. So by starting with that, I want to be more responsible with buying yarn and spending money on yarn, but I have never regretted actually buying it. I only regret not using it as I thought I would. Reason 2. It is my meditation. It's calming. Whenever I take needles in my hands, open a new pattern, and start casting on stitches, I forget all the struggles I had and occupy my head, my mind and hands with working on stitches, rows, and feeling yarn between my fingers. Knitting helped me a lot during my years of studying for my master's degree, when I used to feel overwhelmed with things I had to do. It was a great way to ground myself, recollect my thoughts, and step away from unnecessary stress. Also, the best thing after a hard and hectic day at work is to come back home, make a cup of tea, have a little sweet, and take my knitting basket and continue working on my projects. Reason 3. I can use math. I always loved math and calculating. I live in a world of sheets, tables, and optimizing numbers in my life. I do my taxes, my expenses, and so much more. And I've learned that knitting is my perfect hobby because I can do both. I can develop both creative and analytic sides of my brain. Knitting is full of calculating and measuring, from gauge to amount of yarns needed. I like calculating and trying to figure out how to work patterns and knitting objects in numbers that would make sense. Reason 4. It allows me to improve. Knitting itself, from choosing a yarn to making a garment, always feels like an area of improvement to me. Every time I want to knit something, I improve myself by learning about different types of yarn, different types of knitting accessories, different methods to knit, different patterns, different gauges, etc. I feel like with every project I learn more and more about yarns and knits. My knitting journey started by wanting to learn how to knit a heel for a sock. Then I learned how to measure myself and calculate stitches and gauge for knitting a raglan sweater for myself. Then I learned how to read a knitting pattern, the knitting in color work, and so on. So every knit teaches me something new about knitting. Reason 5. It connects me with other people. I think that in a way, knitting made me feel closer to my mom and my grandma. My mom always had passions for handcrafts. She loves cross-stitching, crocheting, knitting, making jewelry from beads, and anything you could think about. And I always felt like I was not good enough at anything. I'm not creative enough, I'm not diligent enough, nothing was interesting enough to me. And then I always saw my grandma knitting socks, and I loved all the socks she made. I still have one pair of socks that she made for me, and I always wanted to learn how to make them myself. My grandma and mom just taught me basics, how to knit and purl stitches, how to simply knit rows. But back then, I didn't appreciate it enough. And after my grandma passed away, I decided that I finally want to learn how to knit socks, how I mentioned already before, and how to knit that heel that always seemed so intimidating to me, and because that seemed the most difficult part to me. And I think in a way I connected with my grandma and with that first pair of socks I made, and I felt like since I learned it, I can continue on her legacy. And also, since I started to knit and get better and better at it, I understood my mom's obsession with handcrafting and accumulating yarn, and we have so much more to share now and talk about. And besides that, I discovered an amazing YouTube community of knitters that share their projects, their ideas, and inspire each other. And I think being able to connect to people is the biggest reason why I love knitting. Reason 6, it allows me to express myself. From choosing yarn color to a pattern, I am learning to express myself. I can knit whatever I like in colors that I love and wear it with a lot of joy. You can knit anything you want, from a scrunchie to a blanket, from underwear to a Christmas ornament. It allows me to see what colors I gravitate towards the most, as well as the type of yarn, garment, and so much more. Reason 7, I've been learning about different materials. So when I first learned about knitting, I had no idea that there were so many types of yarns, so many options and combinations. When I used to see my grandma knit, she would only knit from the yarn that she unraveled from an old sweater, and that's it. But when I got more interested in it, I learned a lot. I learned that there are natural yarns, synthetic yarns, which I knew in general, but somehow never thought about it too much. And then there are dye lots, and there are different combinations, different types, DK, iron weight, sports, fingering, etc. I still don't know too much about it. I have some learning to do, but yes, knitting made me learn a lot about it. And now I look very differently into clothing and what I want to put on my body, and I pay more attention to it. Reason 8. It's endless possibilities. As much as it can sometimes be overwhelming, it's amazing how many possibilities there are. Not only what to knit, but on how to knit as well. Is it a structured knit? Color work knit? What colors to choose? What kind of yarn to choose? What kind of garment to knit? For who? For what occasion? For what reason? How to change it? How to make it better? Endless possibilities. Endless happiness as well. Reason 9. Patience. I have never been a very patient person. I always found it hard to start and finish something. When I was younger, I had a lot of projects like that I started and never finished. And knitting actually improved the side of me a lot. I've learned to appreciate the process and time you put into the finished object, all the effort that comes into it, and to actually see what you can do with your time spent on something. You can actually see your time growing on the needles. Of course, some projects are more exciting than others. Even some parts of the projects can be more exciting than others. But I think that is the beauty of knitting and patience that comes with it. Reason 10. I learn about myself a lot. With all being said before, it all comes into learning more about myself and getting to know myself better. Since I started to knit, I paid more attention to what I like in the material, what is worth buying, what I think is worth making. I also constantly learn what defines me, what colors do I like, what type of garments I like, etc. I learned a lot. I learned that I really like the feeling and warmth of mohair. I know that wool bites don't bother me. I know that I prefer natural yarns. I learned that I feel better wearing warm tone colors. I am also a slow knitter, and I'm bad at doing few projects at a time. I learned that I can actually be patient, don't be stubborn, and fix mistakes. I actually learned that I have a hobby and I don't have to be perfect to enjoy it. So that's all my reasons that I could think of what the knitting is for me and what I got from it. And I want to ask you, what is knitting for you? What do you like most about knitting? Do you have anything to add? Please, if you have, you can leave it in the comment. Else, I think that's it, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!